time. He's the chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party. And after Congressman Duncan's Faith and Freedom Barbecue, when Henry McMaster referred to us as dogs, and then he said he was joking, you remember that. I was waiting for you to say, come on, Henry, that's not how we talk. And I didn't get that response. But the very next night, when I had our We Are SC3 event in Clemson, Trav, my friend, got up and said bad things about you and Henry McMaster. And I immediately issued a press release that said, no, that kind of language, that kind of hate, that kind of rhetoric has no place. So I will represent someone who will work across party lines, who will stand up to my party, and who will say, when something's wrong, it's wrong, stop it.
Congressman?
Yeah, the uncivil language that's been out there, as somebody that was on the baseball team that had his name on an assassin's list who tried to kill my colleagues out there, I know firsthand what the uncivil actions of somebody that supports the other party mean. When I see the former presidential candidate, or I see the former attorney general, or I see even my colleague Maxine Waters make the comments that they've made, I immediately go to the speaker and say, you need to do something about that. There's no place in it. I haven't called anyone a name in this campaign, nor will I. And I haven't in my several years of serving in Congress. We need to tone it down. We need to focus on America. And by doing things like tax reform, by doing things like good regulatory reform, by focusing on energy, by focusing on the Constitution, we will return this America to greatness. Now, let me say this. The partisanship and the factions have been there since the very beginning. In 1797, one of our founding fathers served in Congress, and as he was leaving, he said this. His name was Fisher Ames. He said, do not ask what good we do, for that is not a fair question in these days of faction. He said, don't ask what good we're doing in Washington. That's not fair of you to ask that question of me. In these times of partisanship and faction, it happened in 1797, it's happening in 2018. But we can come together as a nation. And I served in the state legislature. I served in Washington. I got a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle, both in Columbia and in Washington. I look forward to working with them, and I have in the past, and will continue in the future. Without a yield back.
Let's stay on task. Rebuttal.
I would just ask, when have you spoken out against your own administration when they have used that kind of language? I agree with you on the language on my side. By the way, Mary Garron is the only congressional candidate in Democratic congressional candidate in South Carolina who has said she does not support or endorse Archie Parnell. Guys, I'm the only one. My friends have all left me. If you want somebody that's going to stand up for what's right, no matter.
Thank you.
No matter. It's time to change. I agree. It's been this way for a long time, and it's time for us to bring honor, decency, and common sense back to Washington.
We still have several questions.
All right.
So let's roll.
Okay, we're now on to entitlement programs, those aimed at helping citizens in poverty or those that affect certain age demographics. What are your views on programs such as Social Security, Medicaid, or Medicare? We'll begin with you, Congressman.
Okay, well, there's a difference between entitlement programs and programs that pay you a benefit for your contribution. Social Security is not an entitlement program. Veterans benefits are not entitlement programs. They're earned benefits. But we do have entitlement programs under the fact that you're taxed and that money is given out through programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and whatnot, welfare programs. So there's a difference. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Social Security reform, Medicare reform, and other things. Let me just tell you, when you hear about government funding, a budget, government shutdown, omnibus, promnibus, CRs, that sort of thing, Congress is only dealing with 1/3 of all of government spending, only 1/3. The rest of the spending that government has, the other 2/3, is over on the mandatory spending programs known as entitlements under a general term. So 46% of that 2/3 are in the big three, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, the big three in the mandatory spending programs. Now, I mentioned earlier we're $22 trillion in debt. We've got deficit spending. A big driver of that is the mandatory programs that we never touch in Congress. I think we ought to open those laws up that created those programs, like the Social Security Act, the Medicare Act, and just see if we can make some reforms to make sure that those programs are solvent for future generations. And when people talk about Social Security reforms, they're not talking about cuts. They're not talking about any cuts to any beneficiary that are drawing the benefits today. If you're retired or you're close to retirement, it would never affect you. We're talking about my children, people that are younger than me, maybe having some reforms.
Ms. Garrett.
Well, I would say, I agree with you about the term entitlement. It's become a dirty word. My father, most of you paid into Social Security. You've earned that. That is your earned benefit. And contrary to popular belief, there's a way to maintain its solvency, and that is to stop borrowing from it to grant millionaires and billionaires tax cuts. Okay? We can't borrow against it. We just have a clear difference of where our priorities are. In Medicaid expansion in this state, and I know this is a state issue, but that would have been so economically prudent. That's why so many healthcare professionals supported it. So it's not just economics or morality, it's common sense. Social Security works. By the way, I was endorsed by Social Security Works also, because I understand that. And it is shameful that that has been used as a pool to take money from to help people that don't need it. And I have nothing against wealthy individuals. I happen to have some friends who are wealthy. But guess what? They don't mind paying their fair share either. And they don't want to see poor, old, sick children go without health care. So again, this is just a question of where our priorities lie. And I do believe we can protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid if we are prudent with our funds.
Congressman.
Our priorities ought to be the solvency of these programs that help so many, the solvency of Social Security, the solvency of Medicare, so that those benefits will be available for the people that are in college here at Lander today. The way it's going, they will not be available. They're driving up our debt and our deficits. We've got to make some reforms so that will be available. With that, I'll get back.
All right, we have reached the most important question in this race. If elected to Congress, will you ensure that the superior students from Lander University have an ability to serve as interns in your Washington, D.C. office to further their professional development? Ms. Guerin.
I would certainly take all applications from Lander University. Look, thank you guys for doing this. This is so important. Students who are here, for you to be engaged, this is your future here. And if you don't voice that voice that people died for at the polls, then you get what you get. So at the end of the day, I ask you, again, I'm not in this for political gain, power. I didn't even know what a congressman was paid when I filed a run. But I have sacrificed a lot. And it's because of my child and your children and our college kids. I'm fighting for you. We can change this, and you can call me an idealistic, whatever you want, but I believe in an America where we can work together, we can solve the problems of the people, and this country is great. It is absolutely great. But let's just work to make sure that everyone, regardless of skin color, regardless of their zip code or their class or ethnicity or sexuality, that they all have an equal opportunity at the American dream that I was so blessed to live. Thank you.
Congressman.
Well, we not only have had interns from Lander University, we actually have Lander University graduates on my staff. So we're Bearcat. My son finished up here at Lander University and now works for the university, so we're glad to be here. And I ran for Congress in 2010, not for political power or personal gain. I was running a small business. I served in the state legislature for 8 years to try to make my state better. But I saw an opportunity to go to Washington to try to make the future brighter and better for my children. What I saw was government that was involved in bailouts and takeovers and spending and borrowing and debt. The debt that they're going to have to pay back, the debt that's approaching $22 trillion. Folks, I believe in a strong America, strong economically, we are. I believe in a strong America militarily. That is a constitutional role of government, is defense of this country. I believe in strong border security because we're a sovereign nation. And we can open our arms, we do. We're a benevolent nation when it comes to that, but there's a legal way to come into this country. But we as Americans, as a sovereign nation, determine who comes in, how many come in, how long they stay, what they come for, and who we give our citizenship rights to. That is a role of government to do. So the economy's on fire. I'm happy to have played a part in that. Government is actually shrinking because I believe in limited government, free markets, individual liberties. I want to empower the individual and empower the states. So sending me back to Congress next Tuesday will give me the opportunity to continue furthering that goal of jobs, energy, and the founding fathers.
For the record, they both endorsed Lander University. Thank you very much, Congressman Duncan and Ms. Guerin. Ladies and gentlemen, now is an appropriate time